Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a cleanup video. I know a lot of folks have been asking us to sort of clean some of these guns up, have a look at them. We went through Simpsons and we picked up some of these M46 Swedish Mausers. They're Husqvarnas, chambered in 9.3 by 57 millimeter. The plan is to have a relatively inexpensive hunting rifle in a cool old school cartridge that we can, possibly maybe put a scope on, tend to some of the minor issues with the wood on these guns, clean them up. Some of them have some outside, nastiness and a little cancer on the outside. But for the most part, pretty strong guns. We're going to go through and headspace them, check them, go over some of them, and we have a few to contend with. So basically, the point of this video and other videos that are going to be in this series is very similar to what we did with the 20 bore paradox, where we're determining this unknown caliber. We're making ammo for it. We're preparing. We're going out and we're shooting this thing. We're trying to kind of develop a story here that kind of leads up to what I hope will be a really fun hunt that we're going to take with these guns. And hopefully take some pretty big animals, okay? The 9.3 by 57 is no joke. This is a really cool cartridge, and it's capable of taking just about anything that lives and breathes and walks on the ground, okay? It's a pretty powerful cartridge, short of probably the largest animals on Earth. I mean, I don't know if I'd go shooting an elephant with it, but these rifles have definitely taken polar bears, all manner of different bears, all manner of moose and elk and other big critters, plenty of white-tailed deer, as well as some dangerous game hunts in Africa. Some folks have used these to that effect. So they're really cool guns, and they're not incredibly expensive, which is really cool. So as a project gun for the money, they really resonate quite well in that regard. We're going to go ahead and begin by taking the gun apart, and we're just going to sort of explore it, and you guys are going to learn along with me. We do have a little bit of nastiness here on the outside, a little bit of pitting and rust that we're going to try to get off with some steel wool and maybe a little bit of bronze wool hot scrubber to try to clean the metal up. We're going to check headspace in this video, and we're also going to look at the stock, and we're probably going to relieve a little bit of the tang area on the stock and glass it in with some Brownell's Acro glass. These stocks are known to break pretty readily and also split really bad here at the tang. I'll actually be able to demonstrate that for you because we do have a few guns that have split tangs. We are going to take those apart and clean those during this video as well. So we're just going to have a little fun, go through and assess what's going on, and join me. Let's have a look. We're going to just see what happens here. Let's do it. Okay, guys, basically I'm just going to take you guys through the exact thing that I do when I acquire a piece like this. We're just going to go through and check it out. The butt plate is an original Husqvarna butt plate. No breaks or cracks. That looks good. No toe damage. No wrist damage. We got good looking checkering here. So far the tang area is not cracked, which is good. I'm going to show you one that's cracked in a moment because that's one common thing on these, obviously, is that they tend to crack back there in the tang area because this is a pretty thin wrist, okay? And this is a lightweight stock, and it's definitely not a slouch in terms of recoil and power, so that is a thin wrist, so that's something that needs to be attended to so it doesn't open up. We've got basically a cock on close Swedish M94/96 Mauser action. It's military action, it's been scrubbed, but Husqvarna built a ton of guns based on this action. The bolt looks pretty good. The bolt mechanisms on these are not numbered to my knowledge. None of the ones I have are numbered. We're going to set that off to the side. We're not worried about the bolt just this minute. I can see right here that there's definitely some basically dried up oil and everything on the inside of the action that's going to need to be attended to for sure. That's something we're going to look at. And obviously, we've got a lot of rust on the outside that we're going to try to card off. And then we've also got some Butch's bore shine. We're going to get in here and try to get some of this copper oxidation and fouling out of the barrel. So we're going to start by just removing the gun from the action. This is a schnabel style fore-end, just a basic rounded fore-end. The schnabels generally are going to have a little bit of a lump right here. Some of these have the true schnabel lump, and some of them just have more of a sporter contour at the end. I don't know if there's really much to choose from there. Okay. We're basically just going to go through and remove these action screws. Now, one thing I want to mention is that these action screws are in really nice shape, and they don't look like they've been moved in quite a while. All right. We're going to make a judgment call once we get the gun apart as to whether or not we're going to bother you know, like bedding the whole action of the gun. I don't know if really that's going to be necessary. I think just the tang area is what we're probably contending with the most here. All right, no corrosion there, that's good. I don't know if the bottom metal on these is compatible with the standard M96 Mauser, but if I had to guess, I would say likely so. Okay, and one way that we can release this magazine right here, if I had a bullet I could do it, but basically we can take just this cleaning jag right here and should be able to just push, pull, just like that. All right, we can see we've got quite a bit of dried up oil. All the parts are basically have Swedish proof marks. This is a Swedish firearm. The M96, M94 actioned. This is a M46 bolt action. These guns were made from around the mid-20s up through, I want to say, about maybe the 40s or 50s. So this is definitely an early example of this type of firearm. That bottom metal is a bit of a tight fit, but there we go. We can see that we have some storage grease, preservatives. That's obviously something we want to get off of the metal. The bottom metal is in wonderful condition on this, this firearm. The stock looks good, no oil soak. Something else that we do have on the way that we're probably going to wind up checking out for these guns. I do have some Timney triggers on the way that we're going to try to drop into these. That's probably going to be a different video because I don't physically have those triggers in-house just yet. This is just sort of preliminary and going through, and we're going to fix what we can today. All right, we got this one little screw here. We're going to back out. It's probably holding the stock on because action's acting like it doesn't want to drop out of the stock. So this is something that is different than a standard Mauser action, a military Mauser action. It's one nice thing about this type of gun is that you don't have all of the stock bands and stuff to worry about. All right, so getting the gun out of the action, we're going to look at the inside of the stock. It looks pretty good. Probably going to need to relieve a few areas and glass it in, but all in all, really solid looking stock. No splits or cracks or any bad things we really want to worry about. The stock itself has got some nice figuring here. Not a terribly ugly looking piece of walnut by any stretch of the imagination. That could be birch. That could be Arctic birch. I'll let you guys decide. All right. The action itself is actually in wonderful condition. You can see there's a good bit of storage grease that's under the action of this gun. We can see that the bottom side of the receiver shank is serial numbered to the barrel shank. So it's a matching barrel and receiver, which in a sporting gun we certainly wouldn't expect to have any issues there. The trigger mechanism is in nice shape. We've got some beautiful looking fire bluing that's on there. That is a glorious looking setup there. This is all going to get pulled apart and cleaned. And there's definitely some dried up grease that's in the action itself. Not too bad. We're going to go ahead and pull the... So this guy right here houses the ejector, and it also is your bolt stop. So we're going to remove the bolt stop, which on a Mauser is pretty straightforward. Okay, set this over here. We're going to get that bolt stop off of here. Shouldn't require a lot of force. Basically, the head of this pin is really sharp. And the reason that they do that is because the way that this whole weirdo arrangement goes together is that if you don't have that point, you're never going to get it back together. So that's what that point is there. So it kind of forces it and helps it find its way. Now, one thing I will notice here, it probably needs to just be cleaned really well, is that the spring that powers the actual ejector is pretty weak on these guns. That's kind of a known problem with the M46s. In this case, I think it's really just going to require a little bit of, probably just a little bit of cleaning. You know, we do have a bit of grease and dirt, and we're probably going to opt to ultrasonic some of this stuff. All right, so for the trigger mechanism, looks like it's just held in with pins instead of screws, but we do have a bit of crud in the way. All right, I'm going to see if we can clean some of this grease away a little bit here. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm dealing with here. Trigger mech is in really clean shape. Doesn't look like it's ever been out of the gun in the entire time that this gun's existed. Okay. Doesn't look like any of these pins are staked. See, it pivots here. That we should be able to just knock that one pin out, and there should be a little cup and a screw, a spring under here that powers it, okay? We're just gonna take an armorer's block. This is a Brownells armorer's block. And we're gonna knock that pin out. Just so we can have a look here. It shouldn't require a ton of force. Of course, my gunsmith and hammer walked off, so I'm just gonna use this little tack hammer. Not a big deal, because it's not gonna really require, hopefully, a lot of force to get this pin out. I'm just going to give it a little. It's moving. Some gentle persuasion. All right, so like I said, there's a spring, cup assembly. Everything looks good there. And actually that pin didn't even drive out all the way. That's perfect. It's captured. So there's our trigger mechanism. And really this trigger is probably going to stay out anyway because we're going to be dropping a chimney in it, but we're still going to clean what's there. And really, to be fair, the triggers on these guns are not bad. They really aren't. Another thing, distinctive feature you can see is the use of a safari style sling stud that is basically swaged on to a step in the barrel. And that's a really solid system. We can see we do have some rust and corrosion. I'm going to look down the barrel. Now, I did preliminarily run a patch through the barrel of this gun, and the barrel's in pretty dang good shape, but we are going to go ahead and let some butches sit in the barrel just while we're tending to the outside of the barrel. Okay, so all we're going to really do for that is just take some butches bore shine. Now, what this stuff is a copper solvent. But man, it'll straight up, this stuff will get up under anything. It'll get through leading to a degree. It'll get through powder fouling, copper fouling, oxidation. I mean, you name it, it'll do it. Butches is a pretty good product. And we're basically just going to soak down a patch with some of this butches. You don't want to let this stuff sit in the bore of your rifle for longer than about 20 minutes, okay? This stuff is pretty gnarly. It is a solvent. So we're basically just going to saturate a patch. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to let it push forward a little bit. I'm actually going to saturate the rails of the receiver with just a little bit of this butches. And it'll help break down some of this dried up oil and crap that's sitting on here. So we're going to saturate the raceways. Then we're going to soak down the bore with some butches. One more patch of bushes. Woo, this stuff has got an aroma. Guys, if you're married, okay, you might want to do your wife a favor and make sure she's out of the house. Go send her shopping or something, because this stuff, woo. I'm getting a butches bore shine contact high here, okay? This stuff has got quite an aroma. The aroma from these types of solvents is more than likely caused by the use of ammonia, and that's why you don't want to allow it to sit on the metal too long. Ammonia is no joke, okay? You don't want to breathe it in. Now, you can also see where I drove this second saturated patch through. See how it's got a little bit of a blue tint to it already? That's because that ammonia is actually just literally pulling that freaking copper residue right out. And these patches, as we dry the bore out, are going to appear blue, green, varying amounts of color due to the copper oxidation that's present still in the barrel. Even though we swabbed the barrel out, there's still a ton of copper oxidation that's present inside of the barrel that we're going to have to remove. And for my sanity, I'm going to go ahead and go throw this in the trash, because that saturated patch, whoo, it's got quite an aroma to it. So, woo, while we let the while we let the butches work in the barrel, again, I'm giving myself, let's just say, 20 minutes. I'm going to contend with the outside metal while we're letting the butches do a little bit of work here. We're going to take a little bit of LPS2 and we're just going to coat the outside of the barrel here. And what I'm going to do, honestly, let me just grab a couple of paper towels here. Now normally, guys, I wouldn't have so many tools just laying out on the bench like I do, but I'm doing it this way so that I can have easy access, just to try to keep this video just as short as I can. So what we're going to do is just take the outside and spray it down with some oil. Now there's a couple of different methods that you can go about for this, okay? One way is to convert the red rust oxide into black oxide, and the way you do that is literally by boiling this thing, okay? You can boil it and you can card it if you want. That's certainly an option. I think a little bit less obtrusive way for this particular case is going to be to card it with just a little bit of bronze wool and some LPS2 oil. And then if it appears that that's not going to do the trick to get her clean, then we can go to the second option, all right? Get in here and see if we can clean up some of this rust. And look, the thing is, guys, the finish on this gun is pretty rough. We don't mind if we take a little bit of the bluing off in this process. We've got to get that rust off of there, okay? You know, really, the most surefire way to do this is to convert the red oxide into black oxide. And the only way to do that is to boil it. So think about it. When you rust blue something, when you hot blue something, what are you doing? That red oxide is converted into black oxide. And in that process, you're creating a really gnarly finish. When you rust blue something, you're actually letting the surface of the barrel rust, and then you're following up with some hot water. You're boiling it out to convert that over to black oxide. All right, let's see how, look at all that rust. Look at this. Okay, red oxide, rust, no good. Okay, cleaned up pretty good. There's actually no visible pitting. I mean, wow. I mean, that barrel actually cleaned up quite good without even needing to really boil it, okay? Now the bad thing is once a barrel or once metal gets rusted once, it's a lot easier to rust again, okay? I don't know why, but it's just one of those weird sort of things. Coat it down with some oil. We're going to keep scrubbing. Still got a few areas to work through here. All right. I hope you guys are seeing the point that we're trying to make in these videos. We're trying to just take you guys along for the journey, because sometimes the journey is just as much fun as taking the gun out and shooting it. Okay. So not bad. Take a little bit of bronze wool. The bronze wool is very, very much softer than the good Swedish steel that's used in this M46. Now, while I'm scrubbing here, I'll just tell you a little bit about the M46. Sweden, when it came to their service Mausers, they did contract them out, okay, but they demanded that Swedish steel be used in the manufacture of their firearms. So anytime you're talking like, this gun or any of the Swedish military firearms or sporting firearms, they're used Swedish steel. Good, high quality, high nickel content, a specific alloy of steel that only the best would do, right? So that's one thing they demanded. These guns are very high quality, and for what they cost, they're just wonderful. All right, so we can see a bit of thinning in the bluing where the red oxide was that we scrubbed off the barrel just now. However, despite all that barrel cleaned up great. Look at that. You cannot ask for better than that. And this was the roughest gun. I chose this gun specifically because it was so rough. And it's amazing what a little bit of oil and a little bit of bronze wool can do to get that straightened up. Remember, we got our Butch's Borsheim working in the barrel. We're going to keep letting it do its thing. I'm going to go one more time and give just a little bit more persuasion, if you will. And then we're going to pull a few patches out of the barrel, and we're going to see just how ate up this barrel is. We do have some rust right here around the rear sight. Now, if Mark Novak was here, okay, he would tell me I need to boil this thing in water and convert that red oxide over to black oxide. And with Mark Novak sitting on my shoulder right now, I'm going to agree that we could probably do that if we wished. Not a problem. I'm just trying to show you guys the quick and dirty method to do it. Okay, I think this gun is going to be just fine. I don't think we're going to run into a single issue with after rusting. I'm going to show you guys what I do to prevent that, and especially considering that this is a field gun, guys. This is going to be used in the field. It's going to be carried in probably some adverse weather conditions. I'm going to show you all what I do to preserve my guns when they're in the field. Maybe not in this video, but if you stay tuned to this series of videos we're doing, you'll see the progress. And I would encourage you guys, if you're curious, to follow the progress that we make with these Huskies here. I bought more than one of them, so we're going to be setting a couple up, and eventually we'll be doing some casting. And really what this whole thing is sort of coming up to is we're going to take these things out and hunt with them. And we're going to bring you guys along for the journey. So we hope that you'll join us for that, and I'm hoping that that'll all come together in the next few months, okay? So hang out with us on that. Okay, I think the outside of the metalworks is looking pretty nice. The action itself is looking nice. It has some storage grease on it. We got our rust off the barrel. Oh man, look at that. Look at that. You almost can't even tell it was rusted. Well, maybe. But that cleaned up really nice. And the thing is this particular gun was actually like 50 or 60 bucks cheaper just because it had the cancer on the outside of the gun. Look at that, cleaned up great. Saved myself 60 bucks. Took me just a couple of minutes there with some bronze wool, and it cleaned up just beautifully. We're going to very quickly just have a look at the bottom metal. I don't really see any major issues. This is really just more or less cleaning. You know, getting some of this grease off of here, some of this dirt and stuff. We'll go ahead and pull this trigger mech apart. Just so we can clean it really well. Even though we're not going to use it, we still want to clean it. Okay. All right, so trigger mechanism. Really, a bath in the Sonic would be probably doctor's orders there, but we're trying to use just what we have laying around, you know. Trying to show you guys the grunt way of doing it. We got some dried up grease on the follower. We'll go ahead and pull that off. Just going to take a good brush and just scrub this dried up grease off of the follower. We don't want anything getting in the chamber. We don't want anything impeding the feeding. Impeding the feeding. All right. All right. We're going to wipe it down. Just a little bit of oil and a bit of work with the brush. Get that dried up, or get that dried up grease off there. Okay, that looks pretty good. We've got a little bit more right here we got to contend with. I mean, you guys get the idea what we're dealing with here. You know, we get pretty good feedback on these particular videos. Folks like them, so anytime you're interested in seeing our random gunsmithing projects, really just maintenance, not really gunsmithing. Not yet. We're getting there. A little bit of oil, and it's a little bit of grease actually. Still, the preservatives that are on all these metal components are actually still good. Okay. You know, they're only dried up in areas where they've been exposed to the air really well, but not bad. You can see some of the milling marks that are left. Not a big deal. In the wrong way. There we go. It's our follower. That looks nice. Good crisp looking markings on all the metal parts. Every single part is marked. The Swedish crown. Sweden. All right, guys, you get the idea what we're doing here. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. I mean, you're just cleaning. You're inspecting for anything that's wore out, you know, getting all the dried up grease and crud and bull crap off of these things. I'm going to go through and accomplish that. I think you guys can see what we're doing here. Just basic cleaning, okay? Really, actually in pretty good shape. Can't really see a major issue to contend with in terms of the condition here. I think our biggest area of attention is probably going to be the stockworks later on. So we got some dried up grease and maybe a little bit of surface rust, but all in all, not bad. So I'm going to get these cleaned up and we'll move on. Okay guys, we're going to run a few patches through the barrel in a minute. It hasn't been quite 20 minutes yet. We're just going to let that butches sort of sit. Just going to take some LPS2 and a little bit more bronze wool. We're going to kind of go over the action. You notice that this has a stripper clip guide and a thumb groove for loading stripper clips. So if you run this rifle with iron sights and you don't put a scope on it, which we probably are going to put a scope on it, but if you don't put a scope on it, then guess what? You can run stripper clips. You can run 9.3 by 57 in a stripper clip and have a fast loading little hunting rifle. And the cool thing about it is you can run a Swedish M96 brass catcher and you can be the cool guy and you can catch your brass. Because, you know, ain't nobody got time to go bending over picking up brass now. Okay? All right, enough toilet humor. I'll work. Don't leave yet. I'll shut up. All right, and we mentioned that there's some storage. Oh, look at that. Ah! So, I don't know what that is, but it don't need to be in there. It's like a piece of a yak got in there. Those folks over in Sweden were like, oh, we're going to send these folks over here a little present inside of the gun. You're not getting off that easy. Okay, the little feed ramp and everything looks really nice. We just had some dried up grease in action. There is a little bit of pitting that's present, but nothing to cry about. All right, I think it's going to be just fine. Yeah. Yep. You guys get the idea. We're just getting in here and just cleaning up here. These things are discreetly import marked as well, which is really nice. And man, you know, I keep talking about, oh, we're going to scope this thing, and yeah, we probably are, but man, these suckers are so nice on their own, it's almost a shame to scope them. Something Chad and I were talking about earlier. I ended up getting a couple of different guns, and I got one for Chad to play with, so he'll have something to be OCD about, and you know, I'm pretty sure he's going to go out and do all kind of random hand loading and shoot about 600 rounds through it before he figures out like the perfect Goldilocks zone powder charge it needs. All right, just gonna get in there. I like to take a shotgun brush and just sort of wrap a patch and get in those raceways. We're just cleaning some dried up grease off of here. And I'm putting a little, you know, little bit of pressure on the rod. Yeah, that's the ticket, boys and girls. Nice. The action's good. I'm gonna go ahead and check. Let's see how that bolt slides in there. Nice and smooth, baby. Woo! All right. I'm going to run a patch through it. And just so we can get that butches out, it's probably gotten to the point where we need to get it out of there. All right. Let's see how nasty it looks. Okay. All right, observe the color of this patch. We got some blue. All right, and that's definitely from copper oxidation. We're going to take a look at the bore. The bore's in beautiful shape. Okay. Just going to take a patch, squirt a little LPS2 on it, because if there is any more of that butches in the barrel, we certainly don't want it to continue to work. anytime that you're using products like Sweets, 762, Butches, heck, even hops to some degree, don't let it sit in the bore too long. Anytime you're running a solvent, respect solvents, guys, because you don't want to cause an issue. You know, if they sit on a blued surface for a terribly long time, you know, they can cause bluing to start stripping and things like that, and you just don't want that type of an issue to occur, okay? This looks good here. What we're probably going to wind up doing, guys, for this particular video concept, we're going to get the metal works the way we want it to look here in this particular video, and we're going to confirm headspace. And then when we're done, we're probably going to conclude today's video, and then we'll go on to do the stock stuff probably in a separate video, because I think that'll probably help more of you guys. And it'll also allow the video to be found a little bit easier. So we're going to try to wrap things up here in a second. I know that this is pretty time consuming, guys, so for those of you that are interested, please let me know, and we'll be sure to, you know, keep this project going for you guys if that's something you care to see. All right, the barrel, money, looks great. All right, now what we're going to do, since we don't have the trigger in, this is the perfect time to confirm headspace on the gun. The shoulder height on 9.3 by 57, it's exactly the same as a 8mm Mauser. So I have an 8mm Mauser field gauge. I'm not worried about the bolt. I may pull the bolt apart and see if there's any grease in there, but I don't foresee any issues. We're going to stick the gauge in there, and let's just see, now that we've cleaned it really good. All right, look at that. Doesn't even come close to closing. Now, I don't have an 8mm Mauser no-go gauge, but I would be willing to bet cold hard money that it won't close on a no-go. I would have no problem sticking this gun near my face and pulling the trigger. I would not worry about it blowing up or anything. This gun is completely safe. And this gun's probably about 70 years old, guys, so she's getting on up there in age, but it appears to be real nice. I think this is a nice clean example in terms of the metalworks. We're going to go on to glass the stock here in a separate video, but there's covering our headspace. And we're going to get on to also doing a reloading video on 9.3 by 57 for those of you that are interested. So stay tuned for that. So pretty cool stuff. I think right now the metal works pretty much looking nice. We're going to move on to the stock in the next video. Stay tuned for that. It might be a few weeks, but it will be popping up. I figure it'd probably be best to just split these videos up a little bit because I don't want to bore you guys or anything. So please let me know if you enjoy seeing this kind of stuff. We love making these videos for you. So guys, have a good one. We'll see you next time. We really appreciate all of our Patreon supporters, all the folks that purchase man cans to support our efforts. You guys are awesome. Y'all are the reason that we do these videos. So we hope that you enjoy them. We hope you learn stuff. So guys, have a good one. We'll see you next time. Many more videos on the way, and we'll continue this project. See you.